Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Spell Singer and this is the beginning of a special review on an epic game book by the name of New Tokyo 2130. And this review is going to give a quick look at this title with its book number, and then we'll read the blurb, we'll check out the plot and the locations, talk a bit about the game mechanics and the adventure sheets, and then I'll run the artwork through this video, talk a bit about my likes and dislikes, any fun facts, a summary and a score, and we'll finish on a shout out for this epic game book. And it really is epic. Check that out. It's just like, it's 5 volumes for starters. But anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. First of all, I wanted to say a big thank you to 5 recent subscribers who have joined the channel. I want to say thanks to Chris Grace, Rasodix, Chris James Bennett, Nishkam Kericho, and Secret Spy Frog. Welcome. It's great to have you on board. Right, so yeah, out of the blue, I got this email from David Velasco, and it said something like, hi, I'm a Spanish game book author of New Tokyo 2130 with partner in crime Rick Soul. I was like, yeah, I know, you're like the David Beckham of the game book world. So I was amazed, and he said, I want to send you the books, and would you review them on your channel? Yeah. So I jumped at it, obviously. I was just blown away. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I did that. He sent them and I read through them. I'm still reading through them. But I've got enough of an understanding now to review this epic game book. So this is New Tokyo 2130. This came out in the year 2026. And like I say, David Velasco and Rick Soul are the authors for this book. But the cover artist who did the 5, or 6 if you count the lore book, which I'll get into, that was David Schleinkoffer. So he did the incredible front covers, but the internal stuff was by Eferlo and Talas Bragol. So a bit more on them later. So let's read the blurb. So this one, the year is 2130 and New Tokyo is a labyrinth of steel, neon and despair. Megacorporations control every corner of the city, the streets boil with gangs and mercenaries, and cyberspace is an ocean of secrets that no one should uncover. The city never sleeps, its neon lights glow beneath a polluted sky. Among endless skyscrapers and damp alleyways, time is brought with implants, and freedom is trafficked like a forbidden substance. The Kenpeitai agents patrol tirelessly, but they fear the mercenaries, hackers and rebels who dare to defy the system imposed by the great empire of Japan. In the midst of this environment, living within the vast metropolis of New Tokyo, you are a bounty hunter whose identity remains hidden in the shadows. Your only loyalty is to your next mission and survival in a world where death may await around every corner. But deep within you burns a dream that feels almost impossible to achieve, escaping Earth and emigrating to Mars. Every assignment, every betrayal, every victory brings you a little closer to the future. Or it may condemn you to lose everything. Mars is your only hope, the promise of a new life, far from the iron grip of the Megacorporations. In New Tokyo 2130, every decision matters, every shadow hides an enemy, and every mistake can erase forever your one chance to flee this dying planet. In this game book, your destiny is written through your choices. You will move through a world where alleyways whisper in muffled voices, whilst the boundary between the human and the artificial has already disappeared forever. Will you accomplish your objectives and gather what you need to escape? Or will you become lost in a city that devours all who inhabit it? There you go. That's a hard blurb to top. I mean, that really gives you an understanding and a feel for the kind of world that you're about to explore. So the plot and the locations for New Tokyo. Right, plot and locations. Now, this is set in a devastated 2130 futuristic New Tokyo sort of a cyberpunk madness. But you take on the role of this bounty hunter in the great empire of Japan's leading megacity. And your goal, like I mentioned, is to earn 1 million imperial yen and accumulate 10 immigration to Mars points before Japan kind of tightens its borders and you run out of time. This kind of presents a hard deadline of 50 missions to secure a ticket from Earth to Mars. The overall objective, like I mentioned, is to begin a new life on Mars. So the 1 million imperial yen will include the price of the space flight to Mars, where you can start your new life and begin over. Then it's just a simple case of obtaining a special permit needed to travel to Mars by collecting those 10 immigration to Mars points. You earn the money from the missions that you accept, and you've got to try and save as much while keeping up with all the latest gizmos and gadgets, because of course to succeed in some of these missions you need all the latest tech, so all the latest weapons, and all the bio implants that you can get your hands on. They all come at a cost, so it's a fine line between saving your money and keeping up and being able to do these missions that you've been set. New Tokyo 2130 is a massive cyberpunk solo replaying experience presented as a gamebook, requiring all 5 volumes to play simultaneously, and it functions as a highly detailed sandbox kind of tabletop role-playing game. The sheer scale and tactical depth make it a thrilling but heavily committed game for those solo readers. And to play, you need all 5 books. Yes, it's not like you play one book, you get to the end, you go to book 2. You need all 5 simultaneously, and it all makes up New Tokyo 2130. You cannot play with just 1 or 2. Now, we're all used to flipping between the references of the game book. Well, this is the same. You flip between references, but you're also flipping between books as well. So just to give you an example, you might start in your apartment in volume 2. You might get a mission, and the description's in volume 1. And when you take the mission on, you might end up in volume 4. So yeah, you need all the 5 books before you can crack on. There's also a 6th book, but it kind of acts as a lore book. I'll put the link in the description, because you can buy this book, or you can just download the PDF and have a look. It's quite good. I'll go into that in a bit more detail. Now, there isn't really a map as such, but with the magical wizardry of ChatGPT, I have come up with this map here. And I'm going to read to you, just very briefly, a little bit about what is going on in the world of New Tokyo 2130. So from this map, the Fourth World War obviously devastated much of the planet, and it kind of reconfigured the world order. Japan emerged as the leading global power, bringing about establishment of the great empire of Japan and defining a new geopolitical reality. Now here you can see the great empire of Japan. Japan has basically expanded across almost all of Asia, consolidating its dominance over regions such as China, Korea, and even parts of Russia. And then you've got the United States. The country that was once a true superpower is now fragmented into self-governing regions. You've got the West Coast, known as the Pacific Federation. That's become a technological stronghold, while the East Coast, known as the Atlantic Coalition, struggles to maintain its influence. And then in the centre here, you've got the Heartland Nation, which is caught in a continuous conflict between these factions. And then here we've got the Euro-Asian Union. So Europe and part of Asia have formed the so-called Euro-Asian Union in an attempt to counterbalance the power of the great empire of Japan. Here we've got African Nations League. So Africa has formed a unified coalition known as African Nations League, composed of various nations from across the continent, and they've joined forces to resist the influence of the superpowers. And then you've got this kind of new actors in Asia. You've got Thailand, India, and other Asian nations. And they've kind of been divided up between the dominance of the great empire of Japan and the influence over Euro-Asian. And then you've got South America, the New World Order. has brought about a complex dynamic of foreign influences and political tensions in the area, and while multinational corporations have extended their reach throughout the region, local governments struggle to maintain a kind of delicate balance between economic interest and the preservation of the cultures and natural resources. So yeah, there you go. I thought it would be easier to show you that on a map than rattle off all that stuff, which is just in volume 1, volume 1 of this epic saga. So it gives you an idea of where we are and what's going on in the global kind of situation. Okay, let's talk about the game mechanics and the adventure sheets. So the character creation kind of is the first thing you got to do. That kicks off, and you got to choose your age and your name, and you even get some cool sounding names to choose from if you're struggling. From this image that you can see here, so you can choose your names. Very cool. It really gets you into like the feel of it. Now the gameplay, it kind of centers around this strict flow. You start off at your apartment for your downtime, and then you take on a narrative or procedural type mission before returning back to your apartment, and it goes on like that. But it's all the cool stuff that you can do while you're in your downtime that really comes to life. Yeah, you have also 5 primary kind of attributes, all right? And these are strength, so your physical power, your muscular build. You've got dexterity, which is your agility and skill. You've got perception, that's kind of like your sensory awareness. Intelligence includes like knowledge and mental insight. And you've got your charisma, which is your ability to interact with others as well as with robots, and the ability to hack. It might seem a bit weird because in the future, the hacking is not just data and understanding how to hack. These systems are AI, and they have like personality. So if you have a good charisma, you can kind of dupe them into allowing you to hack and get into whatever it is you're trying to get into, whether it be security or whatever. So yeah, really smart, really interesting attributes. Now, in addition to this, there are 2 special characteristics. So one is called melee combat, and the other one is called ninja skill. Now, melee combat is the value, and it's equal to the sum of your strength and your perception. So those 2 attributes that I just mentioned. And the ninja stars is the sum of your dexterity and your intelligence. And at the beginning of the game, all 5 main characteristics start at 0, which is kind of like the human baseline, your average human being. However, you can improve these stats before beginning the adventure. You start off with these 3 points to distribute amongst those 5 characteristics. And you can use these to kind of, increase these characteristics. Each point you spend of these 3 points ups this characteristic, or whichever one you choose, by 1. The only restriction is that there's no main characteristic can start with a value higher than 1, and then the minimum is 0. So you can't pile everything into charisma, but you can sort of have a level playing field to kind of help you out as you play. You also have mastery points, reflecting your training, skill, and your experience that your character kind of gains, through encounters with enemies and challenges. Now, these mastery points, they represent your character's courage, commitment, and luck. And when you complete certain challenges, you'll be awarded these mastery points. And at the beginning of the game, you start with a 1d6 equivalent. So you roll that 1d6, and that's how many mastery points that you start with. The maximum you can have is 10. And these points can be spent to kind of temporarily boost your main or special characteristics. So it's not the same as experience points in D&D terms. It's more like you get it kind of represents like a burst of fury or something. Now, health points. We're not over yet. Health points, they kind of represent your physical condition, your resistance to poison or physical injury. And at the beginning, your health points start at 20, and if this drops to 0, you just fall unconscious. It's not game over just yet. Oh no, you'll be able to keep playing and recover essentially back at your apartment, following the book's instructions. So once you're back at your apartment, you recover your base 20 health points, but you could suffer a penalty described in whatever the specific situation is. So your base health points is fully restored after each battle as well. And similarly, you have endurance points. Okay, so these reflect your long-term strength. So the authors, they describe this quite well. They talk about it as the difference between your health points representing kind of like your short-term stamina, and your endurance points representing more of your lasting resilience. So it kind of helps you kind of understand what it refers to. The health points are relevant during combat, whereas endurance points are used primarily as a kind of like a penalty for losing fights or dropping to 0 HP. And that could cause you to lose one or more endurance points later. So if you get a good pummeling in a battle and you get knocked out when you return back home to your apartment, it may be that you'll lose 1 endurance point. So yeah. And at the start of the game, you begin with 20 endurance points, but if your endurance points ever hit 0, it's game over. That is where you die. Now, combat. So every round of combat consists of 2 phases. The first is the opposed attack roll. So you roll 2d6 and do the same for your opponent. Whoever rolls the highest wins that phase and gets a chance to injure their opponent. So in detail, if you imagine this roll is based on the melee combat, so your stat is equal, remember, to your strength and your perception, plus any mastery points you might want to chuck in there to help you out. Roll 2 6-sided dice, and that result is your combat score. And the total is your attack roll. The second phase is just your damage location plus your actual damage roll. Now, only the winner of the opposed attack roll makes these actual damage rolls. So first, you determine the damage location. Your character sheet includes this small table you can see here. This little image kind of tells you about what part of the body you're going to whack. So first, you determine the damage location. So you roll that 1d6 and you compare it with this table. So a roll of 1 means you hit the legs. Because the legs aren't particularly threatening, you subtract 1 from any damage you're going to do. If you hit the torso, there's no modifier, it's just whatever the dice roll is. And then the arms, you add 1 to the damage, and the head, you add 3. And then next comes that damage roll. You check your weapon for any upgrades or that your opponent might have. And its damage stat on your character sheet, or the opponent's, obviously, if they won. So you note that on that character sheet. And the weapon damage changes as your katana improves, because of course you can sharpen it and do all kinds of things, add loads of cool things to it, but at the beginning it's just a 1d6 worth of damage. So as it improves, you've got to keep record of that, because obviously it's easy to forget. You roll your 1d6 for the damage on that location, so we decide the location, then you roll another d6 to actually determine how much damage we're going to inflict. Now you've got to remember also to subtract the armor's protection value if your opponent is wearing any kind of armor. You make the necessary changes on your character sheet and you continue to the next round with a new opposed attack roll until your character's health points drops to 0, or your opponent's. Now, I mentioned armor a second ago. At the start of the game, you have no actual protection as such, but as you progress, you will find armor, and it's kind of divided into helmets, chest plates, bracers, and greaves. You also get to learn how to throw ninja stars. These cause damage of 1d6, and you can throw up to 2 before any battle. They're really cool, and they kind of give you a little head start if you're up against someone really tough. And the damage they cause is a 1d6 before the encounter, so like I say, you can throw up to 2. And to hit them, you've got to beat a difficulty of 5. So you roll that 1d6, you add your ninja star stat, and if you're successful, you roll for the damage location, just as we did in the battle, to find out where this ninja star is going to hit. And after that, you roll your damage dice, so the 1d6. And after throwing stars, you proceed to the first round of the combat. So it's just a nice little way to get a one-up on your encounter before it turns to fisticuffs. Now at the beginning, you've got to decide how many ninja stars you have. That's a 1d6 minus 1. So that'll get you a couple of ninja stars to start out from. Now, your apartment is where the real sandbox world opens up, with options to modify your body. There's up to 60 cybernetic enhancements that you can buy. You can choose some legendary challenges and optional objectives for that huge lastability aspect. And of course, your mission choices here also. So to receive a mission, you just roll a 1d100. You turn to that reference and it gives you a little breakdown of what that mission entails. Now you start with 3 active missions to choose from, but you're never allowed to actually reject a mission as such. You've got to do them as best you can. And as mentioned, to emigrate to Mars, every time I say that, I always think of Arnie in Total Recall. You've got to have that 1 million Imperial Yen and those 10 emigration to Mars points, but you've got to obtain those both within 50 missions. So that's your time limit. So there's 100 missions, it's like 70 story-based missions and 30 monster-based, but you got to get that money and those emigration to Mars points before mission 51. Otherwise, it's game over. So some of your assignments will be quite noble, like fighting the monsters from the rift, whereas others not so much, and they could be illegal. And how you choose to sort of complete these missions will affect your morality tracker, and you're kind of required to complete every mission as best you can. Now, that morality tracker I just mentioned is another aspect of the adventure sheet. This represents whether you're leaning towards good or evil. And your counter starts at 0, and the minimum and maximum values are -10, +10. And its positive values indicate a sort of a moral character, so the higher your morality tracker, the more sort of moral you are in terms of how you're behaving. The negative ones suggest more maybe of a corrupt nature, perhaps. But once you make the decisions, you'll gain or lose moral points. If you make bad decisions, you could lose some, and if you make good ones, you gain them. And there's some really nice aspect, because it kind of makes you think about how you want to play this game. You know, some of the missions you might think, well, this is immoral, but you get more money. Whereas some of the nicer missions might not pay as well. And of course, the object is to get as much money as fast as you can. So you might find yourself siding towards sort of the immoral missions to make ends meet. Right, the adventure sheet. So the adventure sheet is, as you would imagine, is absolutely epic. So from this sheet here, you've got your name, a place to put your health points and your mastery points. You've got your strength, dexterity, and all the different characteristics you can fill in there. Your perception, your intelligence and charisma. And then you've got places for your ninja star throwing capabilities and your combat prowess as well. And you can see a little box for like the damage and everything in there. And then you've got this hexagonal grid for all your missions and any emigration to Mars points, and you've got your Imperial Yen below there. It's a really detailed adventure sheet, and it might be a bit overwhelming at first, but the clever thing about Rick Soll and Dave Velasco is when they wrote this, everything's progressive, so you don't need to learn everything immediately. Like when I opened the book and I started reading the 40-page rule section, I realized quite quickly that you don't need to know everything at the beginning. You know, it's like a modern computer game. You know, you don't read the instruction manual anymore. There isn't one. You just play the game, and as you progress, you'll learn different things that you need to know. So the book kind of takes you with it. That's really smart. I like that about this book. You don't have to understand everything, because it is an extensive instruction section, and the adventure sheet as well. I can remember looking at it first time thinking, oh my God. And of course, there's like 4 sides to this adventure sheet. Plus you've got these little in-games like Futokan Fight. So that's got its own instruction manual as well. It's like an ongoing TV show that you watch when you're in your apartment. So there's so much depth to this game, but it is all progressive, and you just learn what you need when you need it. So yeah. So that's the adventure sheet. Now, let's have a chat about the artwork.